In your opinion, what makes a good DJ? Name a song that you love, but very few people seem to know.
We decided, well, why don't we promote our own stuff? Go and hire a hall, and which is what we started to do. I mean, who could dance to the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, you know?
I'll tell you a story about George Parker Show. Because I met my wife on the George Parker Show, but that's for another interview altogether.
My name is Casey Genesis Jones. That's what I'm known as now. Before it was Casey J.
Casey, what inspired you to become a DJ?
What inspired me, I would say my parents, listening to the music that they were playing, a wide variety of music. And my mother said something to me one day. She goes, for a boy child, you're very sentimental. That's unusual in a boy child. And I didn't know how to take that. So after that, what I did, I sort of like thought about it, and the collection that they had, I was just listening to their music, and I thought, yeah, I want to be in entertainment. Being at school, into soul music, into reggae music, levels rock, roots and culture, mainly in the reggae field, but always had a love for soul music, R&B. A couple of friends, we decided to build a sound system, and that's reason because we was going out every now and again to certain youth centres where certain sound systems was playing, and I thought, yeah, I would like to do that. So that was sort of inspirational to do stuff like that. So we built, as soon as I left school, we built a sound system. The name of the sound system that we built was called Sweet Harmony. The year was 1978.
So I'm
I was
testing you
leaving
now.
school, 1978. And then Conqueror went back to the drawing board, and they came out with a sound system called Mastermind Roadshow.
So Conqueror was predominantly a reggae sound system?
Definitely, it was predominantly a reggae sound system, playing reggae music, and in being around Conqueror, the guys, and hearing the conversation, you know, when the community centre is finished and they're talking, etc., etc., it's like I was earwigging, because I was interested in this movement that was there. Heard about a movement, playing soul music there, but it was only in the nightclubs. To see these guys come along, reinvented their sound system, called it Mastermind Roadshow, and the logo was only one of its kind. That was like, yeah, let me see what's going to happen here. On that note, it was like, yeah, I'm liking this, so I can come away from the reggae and go more into the soul music. So I always had a passion and a love for soul music.
It's interesting that sort of that transition, isn't it? That, you know, you got these soul sounds, but these soul sounds are coming back from that reggae sound system. It's interesting.
The thing is, you had the reggae sound systems all over London, outside of London, Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol, etc., etc., because we used to travel a lot. When a soul sound system came along, it was like, what are you lot doing? Do you lot think you're from America? Yeah? You lot playing music like you're in New York.
I believe over East London, there was a sound called Locomotion.
That's correct. And Locomotion, as far as I'm concerned, from my memory banks, I used to hear of Locomotion, but Locomotion came 75, 76. Did used to have a couple of tapes, TDK tapes.
Wow.
Because if I couldn't go to the party, the clubs, the dance, because remember, I'm still at school, I'm not allowed to go certain places, so I would try and get the tapes.
In your opinion, what makes a good DJ? We don't need to discuss what a bad DJ is in, because we don't need to discuss that, but in your opinion, what makes a good DJ?
My opinion, what makes a good DJ, DJ walks in, he's assessing the clientele that's there. What makes a good DJ is they assess the crowd, the previous DJ that they've walked in that's playing, they're hearing what they're playing, they're looking at the crowd, see what they're reacting to. They need to continue that hype, for want of a better word, and they have now come on and they've changed up the category of music, but they're keeping that flow. Going to their record box, looking around to see, deciding which track should I play. They might pick up 4, 5, 7 tracks or albums or whatever, and they're looking at the crowd and they're thinking, okay, let me look at that tune. It's still buzzing. Okay, I still got maybe a minute and a half to go. Let me line up this one because I think that will flow with that. For me, that makes a good DJ because they're assessing their audience in front of them continuously.
Name a song that you love, but very few people seem to know. Come on, hit me, Casey.
There's a lot of songs that I know, but many people don't seem to know or play. I've got to ask for certain tunes. Even when I go out now, I've got to ask, can you play this? Do you have this album and stuff like that? One of my favourite is Charles Chuck Jackson.
Charles Chuck Jackson.
The track is called Piece of the Rock. Yeah.
Name a cover song of a soul song that's better than the original. That's a tough one. If somebody asked me that question, I'll be struggling. So name a cover of a soul song that's better than the original. That's a toughie.
That's better than the original.
Yeah, come on.
That's a hard one. Because I love originals. And for me, when the original was made, it was the ultimate. You've got an artist come along and did their rendition of that song, and I'm like, that song's absolutely off the hook. You've got Make It With You.
Okay.
It's done by many different artists over decades. And I think that tune is absolutely prolific. You've got different artists that sang it over. But I can't say it's done better than the original because the time frame that it was redone, it was that era. So it's a new audience. So the original, a lot of the punters out there wouldn't have known the original, but this artist, male or female or group, have come along and made this rendition, and that's what they know, and that's the hype right then. So for me, there isn't a remake that is better than the original.
I know that you still keep up to date with music. So come on, give me some tunes that are buzzing right now. Not necessarily new, but give me some tunes that are buzzing right now. Soul tunes. Could be new.
There's some tunes that are buzzing right now. I've got what do you call it?
Name them. Come on.
There's a tune, very laid back tune by Tony Lindsay.
Tony Lindsay.
It's called I Adore You. It's a really laid back, I think they will call that easy listening. Ida Divine. I think she's absolutely prolific for this era that we're in now. The track is called Insomnia. A rendition from Rick James.
Wow.
He's actually featured on it with Anthony Hamilton. It's called Back Together. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Because he's brought Anthony Hamilton and Rick James. He's done Rick James' track. And for me, that's like, wow. It's not actually brand spanking new, but it's at least, I don't know, maybe a year and a half old. But it's still current. It's one of the tunes. The reason I picked that is because it's one of those tunes that I still go out, the parties, the nightclub and stuff. I still don't hear the DJs playing it.
So DJs, you need to listen to this.
They're not playing it. Gotta Pinch Myself. Frank McComb featuring Kathy called Cece. Carmichael.
All right, okay.
The track is called Chicago Style.
And he does produce a good track, right?
Yeah. Carmichael. I remember hearing Carmichael while surfing the net.
Yeah.
And I came across Carmichael. I said, let me hear what that sounds like. And I thought, oh, Carmichael, he's off the hook. As they say nowadays, off the shizzle, man. I thought, yeah, Carmichael, that's the man. So anything that was Carmichael, I didn't listen to it, I just bought it.
Yeah.
Just like other artists like I used to do back in the day. I'd buy Willie Hutch. For me, he was like absolutely prolific for me as an artist. The sound, his background. There are many more, but Willie Hutch stands out for me from, let's say, black exploitation movies, from back in the day, the soundtracks, etc. There's a loads of artists. Curtis Mayfield, he's like, oh, come on. He's like, you know what I mean?
Final question. How do you know for 21 minutes? 21 minutes. So it's gonna be a 22-minute interview. The final question is, do you like to love or be loved?
I like to love and be loved. I don't think there's anyone out there that want to be loved and give love.
Casey Genesis Jones, you are a legend of a DJ.
I wouldn't say so, but it's nice hearing it from you.
as we said, you're a good DJ when someone else tells you you are.
Yes, I believe that.
This is Keith Falconer, the original, but AKA Keith Diamond.
Okay, so tell me, where did the diamond come from?
Listen, man, I go back to the days of sound systems.
Okay.
And I can go back even further as a Ute.
Wow.
As I used to be called, Ute man.
Yeah.
So the early days of Dub Vendor.
Yeah, Dub Vendor,
So
iconic.
I used to run them coffees, teas, Face Man, John. I used to run the tea, they pay me. And later on I go and buy my tunes off of the van. Because it wasn't a shop then, it was a van.
So that's where the diamonds come from?
Not quite. So going back to the
Going back
blues
now.
dance.
We're going to go back now.
Go right into the blues dance.
Yeah.
So come up at your age, I'm going to blues, and again, the music. So it comes from the Mighty Diamonds.
Okay.
You stand there in a shebeen, and everybody's masking.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they put a Mighty Diamonds track on, everybody's rocking.
Right.
So therefore, I just stole that little bit.
So how many years of experience do you bring to the industry?
Over 40.
Over 40. That's a long time. It's a little bit above me. I think I'm hitting 35. 35.
Yeah.
What inspired you to become a DJ?
Whoa, inspiration. Clubland. Let's begin at Clubland, because once I got through youth club discos, community club discos, I was able to go out. First sort of clubs were like in Richmond was Cheeky Pete's. There was 2 clubs in one. One called Brolly's and the other one Cheeky Pete's. Now Brolly's, you're going into jazz funk. These are the dancers. The dancers are in that club. Cheeky Pete's, a bit more commercial, still good for a youngster. You know, you're getting in there, you're learning some moves. And once you got a few of them, you're now there. You're up and running. So Clubland.
That was the focal point.
That was the focal point.
That's made you sort of decide,
Yeah.
you know what, I can do this.
I can do this a little bit better than some of these, I think, in myself.
When was the first time you actually performed live? Did your first live set? And what's most important with I think with a live set is how well was it received by the crowd?
Yeah. So again, there was a little bit of nurturing coming from sound systems, but as a solo, Keith's got records. We're doing a party. Come and if you can play some tunes. Yeah, that's good. So he started building that confidence there. So before I got into my first pub club,
Yeah.
that used to be like a solar radio back in the day, and I was doing a Friday. The guy said to me, "Yeah, come and play." So I've run around everyone I know in Battersea, everyone, all the shops, everyone, and said, "Look, you got to come on playing Continental on Wandsworth Road." The doorman,
Yeah.
the 3 boxers: Sammy Reeson,
Yeah.
European champion; Frank Bruner,
Yeah.
we all know; and Gary Mason.
Gary Mason.
Now you can't get in that door because he's a broad guy. You ain't getting in. But the queue and the place is like a long pub. It's packed.
Yeah.
Absolutely packed. I must have known 3/4 of the people anyway, because it was everyone was there, everyone that I knew locally, everyone, it was just nice, man. It was just like...
Good vibe from the first performance.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I know that you used to do a lot of sort of like all days and stuff like that back in the day. Someone actually says, yeah, Keith Diamond is a pioneer. He's a legend for the old days that you used to do in the Southeast. So tell me a little bit more about some of these old. So tell me a little bit more. This is what I found out.
Going back in the days, we were happy to go out and play music. The Continental, which turned into Queen's, new owners, whatever.
Yeah.
So we were about a year after that. Moving on, I met a guy called Pat Brown.
Okay, yeah.
So he ran that pub for 1 year. And in that 1 year, I got to know him. And Pat says, "Look, I'm going to go and do some do's. Never heard of Chertsey, never heard of these places. This is like, whoa, how far is that? Have Wheels Will Travel." So we move up into this sort of Surrey area. And he decides, we need to do an all day. They don't know what hit them.
Yeah. Raving all day.
Raving all day long. It's like, what? So then it perpetuated from there. It just carried on going. It's kind of whirlwind, really, because one minute you're just playing your local because you know everyone and everyone wants a good time and they go out.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're moving. It snowballed into something else.
I mean, you're currently hosting a show on Soul Central Radio.
Yeah.
So it's a weekly show. So tell us a little bit more about the show.
Mad Hat, Madcap, that's me. But you know, I chop and change it because I'm now in a position where I have my vinyl collection. So I'm dipping into stuff which I've always wanted to do radio because of this aspect. When I bought a single, I bought an album. So I've always bought the album to whatever the artist and whoever the artist was at the day. And so I've always dipped into, always sounded slightly different because I was always dipping into albums where they weren't released, but all of a sudden you're hearing this track. Next thing you know, it's growing.
Yeah. And
I started to associate myself more with record companies at the time. So I was getting that collaboration,
Is that why you got so many white labels in your box? I haven't been spying on you, but I've been dipping in your record box and not looking. Yeah, carry on.
And once upon a time, I was told, I can't tell what you got because they're all white labels. I used to have a certain box or two of just literally promos or acetate, or because I was that close with some of the record companies at the time, you know, it was just one of them things.
I mean, you totally threw me when I found LA Nights in your box. And I found it on a white label. And I had to hunt for that and buy the album and wait for the album to come in the country and pay £20 for that. And I was really gutted that you got on a white label. But
yeah,
actually, you know, what is your preference? You know, because you're playing, I guess you love vinyl, but you've got CDs, digital.
Yeah. Even back to about 87, 88, 89, I was already using CDs. So it was already coming in, and I know I couldn't do anything about that. Although I wanted vinyl to be the main again, it wasn't going to happen. CDs, I could get more CDs in the box, and you know, I'm hunting down tracks, and I can look on the back of this CD, and it's on there. So I combined the two quite early on, but my preference was vinyl. But I used them both. It made more sense if you go out, rather than have three man carrying all these boxes of records in it, CDs. And I was going abroad as well, so it's kind of like, you know, I went abroad in '89 and had my records impounded.
Yeah.
The local guys had to go and you know, get them for me because I refused to play their stuff.
In your opinion, what makes a good DJ?
I think if you can go in, whether you start the night or whether you're coming in on the night, and look at the crowd and look at your, you know, the people around and look at what the DJ is doing. Is he doing what you would do? Is he not doing what you would do? And then add what you're going to add to that. Are you going to go in and boom it, or are you just going to build it? So it's really, it's a whole combination of things, really. Now it's experience because I've done it a few times, like yourself. You know, so you can say, oh, if this track doesn't work, this one should. Yep.
If you could change one thing about the soul music industry, what would it be? I'm not putting you on the spot with that one, but...
Yeah. Well, no longer accessibility because everyone can play soul now, whereas before you had to go and hunt a record and all that.
One thing you would change?
One thing. I don't know if I could change anything, actually, because you probably need to change a number of things
to make that major change.
To make that major change. But you know, the first time I used to go and see artists, I used to meet a lot of artists. Now it's obviously different. I don't know if that's because they're not having to come out and do the promotion the same way because they were selling vinyl. But it seems a lot different now, that personal thing. You know, I'd be in a record shop and then, you know, name drop now, you know, Omar will come in or Alexander O'Neill will come in, meet and greet people and, you know.
So put more pressure on the promoters then. That comes down to the promoters.
Promoters.
Yeah, bringing more artists.
bring them in. You know, they want us to play the tunes.
Name a song that you love,
Mm.
but very few people seem to know,
Mm-hmm.
or DJs tend to play.
Life is like a samba.
Oh, what a tune!
David Benoit.
What a tune!
So I'd hear that. Dun, 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 dun. I'm gone. I'm gone. And then Listen Love, John Lucian. If I walked into a club and they're playing something like that, along that line, I know I'm in a good club.
Name a cover of a soul song.
Yeah.
Which has been done, and the cover is better than the original.
I'm sounding out Sam Cooke's You Send Me.
Wow, that's a big shout.
Listen, the purists out there would shoot me now. Take me. Roy Ayers does a version on that, and I tell you, it tingles down your back.
For this week alone,
yeah,
give me your top 5 soul songs.
Patrice Rushen, Don't You Know?
Yeah.
Mystic Merlin.
Mystic Merlin.
Mr. Magician.
Wow, that's a big tune.
Stephanie Mills and Teddy Pendergrass.
Big shout.
Two Hearts.
Yeah.
Because I do Big People Something.
Okay, yeah, that's a big shout.
I do Big People Something, and I have to play some real soulful, touching soul. Bobby Womack.
Can't be Bobby Womack.
So it could be a number of tracks. I mean,
go on, call it.
Yeah.
Call one. Go
How
on.
Could You Break My Heart?
Yeah, classic.
So now I'm right into Big People Something.
Yeah.
There, you know. But then I'm going outside of that again. I go dancing again because Gregory Porter. I love that 1966 track, and that guy's voice is something else.
So, final question is: do you like to love or be loved?
It's got to be both, isn't it? You like to be loved, but you like to love as well. You know.
So you're gonna go for a bit of both.
A bit of both. Right?
Keith Diamond, you are a legend of a DJ, and I always say to people, you're a legend. You are a good DJ when somebody tells you, not when you convince yourself.
Hi, I'm Carlton White. Most people in the music industry know me as Slaps for my production side. So,
how many years have you been involved in the music industry?
Oh wow, I would say at least 50 odd years.
50 years. So when did this journey actually begin? So 50 years. But tell me, when did it first begin?
It actually started at school. Believe it or not.
Wow. Because I know I used to play the glockenspiel, and I quickly realised that I wasn't going to become a musician because I could not play the glockenspiel. So tell me what happened.
Well, the situation was at school. I used to be a chatterbox.
A bit like me.
Yeah. And you know, probably because you're bored and stuff, and came to the point where the teacher sent me outside. While I was outside the classroom, I could hear the choir in the assembly singing.
Okay.
The teacher that was giving the music lesson to the choir was called Mr. Allen.
Right.
Anyway, I started looking through the window. As you had those times you had swing doors. I was standing outside looking at, I don't know how it happened, but I just found myself inside the assembly room. He saw me in the corner of his eye and called me over. He said, "Boy, come over here." Came over. He got one of the choir members to get a little rostrum, put a chair on top of it, and gave me bongo drums. He said, "I'm going to play a piece of music and you're going to play to it.
Right.
If you don't play to it properly, you'll have another day of not chastisement, but detention.
Yeah, he's gonna put you in detention if you don't play it right.
Anyway, the only thing I remembered about bongos is at that time was Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, because he used to play the bongos. So he started playing piano, I started playing the bongos how I remembered, and he was like shocked that I could play. That was the first time I've ever played the bongos. Anyway, he stopped singing and said, "Every Thursday you're going to be here in the choir. I wasn't old enough to be in the choir.
He could see something.
He could see something in me.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it went on. It got to my parents that I was very musical and they should get me an instrument, but bongos actually. So my mom took me to the music store. We asked for some bongos and they didn't have any. And you know, as black children, you go in the music shop and your parents go there with you. And if you don't come out with what you're getting, you ain't gonna get it. Ain't gonna see it again.
Yeah.
So as I was coming out, I saw this guitar on the wall. I said, Mom, I want that. She says, you sure? Yeah, she got it. She bought it, took it home. And then I started taking guitar lessons.
Wow. So your contribution to black music, not only in the UK, but globally, is quite unique.
Right.
Because there's different avenues to go down, which I've found out about you. So
okay,
we've got the clubland.
Yes.
But you're also a musician.
Correct.
I found out a few other things as well. But I want to start with clubland.
Okay.
Because I have reason to believe, and I've been doing some research. I've got my researchers, and I know for a fact that your family was involved in quite an iconic nightclub in this country.
Correct.
And I just want to talk a bit about
okay.
the club and where it was,
okay.
and a little bit about it and the vibe, etc.
Okay. Well, my father, most people know him as Uncle Vin.
Uncle Vin.
Yeah. And he was a pioneer in the club business, really.
Yeah.
Because the club he bought used to be owned by the Barry brothers, in so being linked with the Craze.
Wow.
And at that time, the Craze were getting in a little bit of trouble, so he weren't going to get his license again. So my father made them an offer and got it, because it was called the Regency.
The Regency.
When the Craze were with it, and my father changed it to the Wyona, which is the West Indian Overseas National Organization.
Right. Okay.
Then it got changed from that to Phebes.
Phebes Nightclub.
Phebes Nightclub.
Where was Phebes? Was it in North London? Was it in South London? Where was Phebes Nightclub?
North London, between Rectory Road and Amherst Road. It was a corner right behind Hackney Downs Park.
Give us a bit of insight into that club. I mean, I've never ever been to Phebes, a little bit before my time. But tell me a little bit about the vibe. What was it like inside?
The reason he got it was the fact that it was at that time where you would have in pubs no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yes.
And so black people never really frequented pubs.
Yeah. So
my father got that as a base point for black people to actually rave. Everybody could rave there, but for black people to have their own place, to call their own, to rave. It specialized in reggae music.
Okay.
But because it was 3 floors.
I heard about this 3 floor club, and that's what I'm tapping into. It had 3 floors, right?
Yeah, it had 3 floors. Downstairs was hard dub.
Okay.
The middle floor was like a restaurant area, kind of cool type soft music, and upstairs was mixed.
Right. Okay.
Now, upstairs started to become like a soulful area.
Right. More soulish kind of vibe.
Yeah, with like sound systems like Roxy Soul Sound,
Roxy,
Mastermind
Rolls Show,
Soul Incorporated.
Which I know of.
Yeah. And a lot of other soul bands that used to play up there, plus reggae bands and stuff. And it eventually got used for a film called Walcott.
Right, okay.
That was linked with me because of my links because I used to go to drama school.
Right, yeah.
I think the lead was George Harris.
George Harris, right.
And Christine Latti, who was in one of those ER type American
Right.
doctor films and stuff.
Have to look her up.
Yeah, Christine Latti. She was very nice, and it was instrumentally done with Rick Mail.
Rick Mel, yeah, we all know Rick Mel.
Yeah, he was a lovely guy as well. Yeah,
So you got this club, you got this vibe. So you got the mixed upstairs,
yeah,
a restaurant downstairs, and you got the dub downstairs.
Yeah.
So what kind of iconic sort of sounds or DJs might have playing down in
Yeah.
the dub section?
So many DJs, so many bands. Heatwave used to rehearse there.
Heatwave, yep.
Clem Curtis and the Foundations rehearse there. Otis Waygood Band, the Ramels, so many wonderful bands that I grew up. The Express, you know, it's a soul band, and I used to go down and watch them after school on the holidays and stuff.
And it's quite iconic, isn't it? Sort of, you know, to be involved in a club that's black music at that particular time. Now, there's something else I found. I want to change it slightly because I got sent a picture of you in a dance group.
Oh gosh!
I found a picture of you in a dance group.
Oh
and
gosh!
I'm going to tap into that because we've got your Clubland side, we've got Phebes, but the dance group, where did that come from?
Well, I was always into dance.
Yeah.
Because I used to go to dance schools and stuff, and the place, and I decided to start up a dance group because my school, which was Hackney Downs,
Hackney Downs School,
and there was a school not far from us called Dalston Mount.
Dalston Mount.
Yeah. So we got the girls from Dalston Mount, guys from Hackney Downs.
Right.
Put them together. The dance teacher was Miss Colvin Smith.
Colvin Smith.
Yes, Cicely.
And was it a dance troupe?
The dance troupe, and we went and entered a few competitions and won some and got medals for some.
And if it was sort of geeks going around, you'd be involved?
Yeah, we were just doing it, you know, having fun really at the end of the day. We were young, we were having fun, you know, and just linked up with a lot of people, met people across the river, across the Thames, because it's South London people as well.
Yeah.
So at that time, didn't matter where you were from, east, south, north, or west. You know, music was the foundation. Music was what brought us together, because we used to party at Crackers and all different clubs.
Crackers, that was a hell of a club.
Yeah, loads of clubs. We used to link up, and it was just fun.
Let's tap into your music side now. So you are also a musician.
Yes, I am also a musician. Well, as I told you about me getting into my guitar and that, and it was funny because my father and all my uncles, they all play instruments. I didn't realize how well.
Right.
It's only till I learned my first song on the guitar that I realized my dad could play.
Wow. So it was there.
Yeah. So he just, one day I was playing them to death, Kumbaya.
yeah, my lord.
Yeah. And he just took the guitar from me and started playing all these calypso songs. And I was like shocked because he never once showed me any inclination that he could play.
Wow.
And he just started playing the songs or whatever to show me no matter what I'm doing, he was there too, type of thing. Anyway, took my guitar to school and it was in tune. Teacher was surprised. How come you have a tuning whistle or pen? Or I said no. He said, how come your guitar's still in tune? And my dad did it.
Right.
Hold on a minute. Did he have one? He said, no, he just did it. And he gave me the guitar to take back home. Detuned it. Told my dad. Teacher said, could you tune the guitar? Because he can't believe you tuned the guitar. I said, nah. My dad started tuning it up or whatever and playing the songs and took it back to school the next day. Teacher says, your father has perfect pitch.
Wow, amazing.
Because it was actually in key with the keyboards.
Amazing.
You know, so, you know, I had something to work towards and stuff. So anyway, I got together with one of my friends at school, which made me start a band called Black Spectrum.
Black Spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And eventually it turned out to be the band people will know and as called Santic,
Yes.
because that band started in my basement,
Right.
which Trevor Waters was the lead vocalist for.
Trevor Waters. Yeah.
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 So
Well
we all
known.
linked up. Yeah. And you know, I then went on to start soul bands.
Give us an insight on some of these soul bands you've been involved in.
Oh gosh, so many.
We've got time. I've got lots of space on my. I got lots of space on my hard drive.
Well, I had a band called what was the first band? It was called Street Heat.
Street Heat.
Street Heat, named after Heatwave, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
And it consisted of Mike McAvoy, who wrote the song Return of the Mac with
Return of the Mac. Yes.
Return of the Mac with
Morrison.
Mark Morrison.
Mark Morrison.
Mark
Return of
Morrison.
the Mac. Big tune.
Yeah. Django Bates
Right.
was a wonderful keyboard player. I think he's a conductor now. Steve Nichols,
Steve Nichols. Yeah.
who I put together with Carl McIntosh to form Loose Ends.
The band's Loose Ends. Yes.
Oh gosh, a guy called Mark, I can't remember his surname now, so many years ago. And Jeffrey Julian,
Okay.
who passed while we were still at school. And I got Jay Henry, who was one of the main backing vocalists for George Michael.
Wow. Wow.
So it was a really, really good band we had together, and we used to rehearse like every week. Oh gosh, Lawrence, another guy, guitarist called Lawrence. Man, I can't forget him. He was like the Al McKay of, you know, the band. He was left-handed player, and he used to turn the guitar upside down and play it. He was awesome. Really, really good friend.
Good player.
Yeah.
Good player. And so globally, what other bands have you been involved in? Have you been in bands UK, outside the UK?
Oh yes. I then had a band over here called Potion,
Yeah.
which was Everton McCullough was the original drummer for Light of the World.
Light of the World, yes.
Yeah. And Rick Clark.
Rick Clark.
Yeah. And he had his own solo career. We're still pretty close friends. We're like brothers, really. And not too long ago, went over to Barbados to visit him.
Yeah.
We did some stuff over there. We've still got some stuff ready to finish as well, which we're working alongside with Donny.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So
excellent artist,
yeah.
Donny.
Then I left and went to America.
Okay. Across the pond, as they would
Across
say.
the pond. I was working over there for a while. With Raheem and Herb. That's just after Keith Cryer left, which was the original bass player.
Right.
And I played bass on the first single for Keith Sweat.
Keith Sweat.
Yeah, out there. Then my mother got ill while I was on tour with them, and I had to come back here. And because it took a long time for her to get well,
yeah,
I had to stay over to oversee her. So then I put together a recording studio with an old friend of mine, Nat Augustine.
Nat Augustine, yeah.
As you know, he was part of Light of the World. And we had a studio for many years, recording and producing different artists and stuff over here. Did the music for The Real McCoy.
So we're moving to TV now, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going now. So we've gone clubland, we've gone down the dance troupe.
Yeah.
We've gone down the bands, and now we're moving into TV.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your work in TV.
Well, yeah, The Real McCoy.
Real McCoy, yes.
I did the theme music for that and wrote some of the sketches.
See, I never knew this.
Yeah.
No one ever told me this.
Right. Then I did the Posse.
Yes. Posse, yeah.
Who had a long-running theatre show, and they did a pilot for Channel 4 of their show, which consisted of, if I remember rightly now, Gary McDonald, Sylvester Williams, Victor Romero Evans, Roger Griffiths, Sylvester Williams, Robbie G, and Eddie Nestor.
That's a hell of a lineup.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lineup.
I'm telling you, it was awesome working with them. I mean, I put my hand on my heart and I say, I don't think there is a collective of actors and comedians that you could put together, even for the next 10 years. Every day, every rehearsal day with them was like a blessing. Because there was so much talent and so much respect for each other. Yeah. Oh, I forgot Brian Bovell. Somebody that stepped in for a time. David, sadly, they got the pilot and it got taken from the series got taken from them. I've worked with Felix Dexter.
Felix Dexter,
yeah.
Yes.
I did his pilot show, of which he was promised a series, so I was going to work on that with him. And as you know, he passed. Very, very dear friend, very close. He used to call me up all hours of the day and night to tell me about different jokes he had. He was such a phenomenal talent. He did BBC Theatre, a series called The Airport.
The Airport?
Yeah, which was directed by Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, he was the director for that, which included Llewellyn Gideon and Felix and Roger Griffiths. Work on Desmond's. Yeah.
Iconic show was Desmond's.
Very, very, very iconic show. It was very funny, that one, because a lot of people don't really get a looking on stuff like that. I was working on the 291 Club.
291.
I was playing bass and talking to a friend of mine, Todd Carty, and I was telling him he was complimenting me on playing with the band. And I said, well, just skim through it because we only had 1 day's rehearsal. He said, what? I said, yeah, we only get 1 day's rehearsal. And I said, well, if this probably was a white show, probably would have had 3 days.
Wow.
And he said, is that true? He said, I said, take for example, Desmond. You have a black show about black people, a black situation, and what are black people most renowned for? Their music.
Yeah.
And it was a white guy that was doing music for them.
Amazing.
Which I was a bit taken aback by. I said, that's what we're living with. And just so happens, it was so funny that Humphrey Barclay was sitting behind me, stood up, took out a card, and reached me and said to me to come and see him the next week, Thursday.
Right.
And that's how I got to work on Desmond's.
Wow, amazing.
So these things just happen for a reason. And it wasn't, I think it was must have been about half an hour before that, I was speaking to a dearly departed Larrington Walker, who was saying to me, Carlton, go on, carry on doing what you're doing. You should be writing the whole of this.
First, use your fingerprints to unlock the device.
Yeah. And even as he was telling me that, that's the reason why I was kind of hyped up to tell Todd Carty about that. But it was Larrington Walker that gave me the impetus really to actually just speak out.
Wow.
To this guy. I miss him so much, because I used to work with him and Clark Peters, who on the new track that I'm working on right now, Clark Peters is doing a little rap on it for me. So
right.
we look forward to that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So look, you've been, singer, writer, musician.
Yeah.
Working for TV.
Yeah.
What other famous artists have you worked with?
Oh gosh.
I'm name dropping now.
Too much to mention.
Come on,
oh man. Well, I've done a track for Gabrielle. I've done a remix for Heavy D, Babyface and Stevie Wonder. So many tracks.
You've got to reel them all out now.
I'm trying to remember. Genuine.
Genuine, yeah, we know Genuine.
Keith Sweat. Alexander O'Neill.
Wow, keep going. It's all flowing now. It's all flowing.
Oh gosh.
Come on, give me some more.
Oh, trying to remember. I've worked with Donny, as you know.
Donny.
Blow Monkeys.
Wow.
Swing Out Sister.
See, it's all coming back now, isn't it, Carlton?
Katrina and the Waves.
Yeah, you see, it's all coming through now, isn't it, Carlton? It's all coming through. You let it all
Heat
out.
Wave.
Yeah, Heat Wave.
Oh gosh.
We're going to put it all in the list. In the description
Oh wow.
as well. Listen, what famous artists?
Janet Kay.
Janet Kay.
And
Yeah.
Omar.
Yeah. It's all flowing now, isn't it? It's all flowing.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you remember it. Sometimes it goes in the back of your head because you do so much stuff. You kind of spread yourself wide. Victor O'Mara Evans.
Victor O'Mara.
Who is a very dear friend of mine who's in St. Lucia now. I just spoke to him a little while ago.
So it just goes on. List goes on.
This goes on.
You've worked with so many different artists globally across the world. Is there anybody out there that you haven't worked with that you'd have loved to work with?
So many.
Come on, give me two.
You too.
Give me two.
I'd want to work. Oh gosh, I would love to work with Cameo.
Cameo, one. Second one.
I would love to work. Actually, even though I've done a track with Babyface, I'd love to work with him
With Babyface
directly. Yeah.
Is there any specific artist that has inspired you throughout your career?
Oh, undoubtedly Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
Oh gosh, and Morris White from Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Morris actually is very weird because Morris' birthday is the same day as my older brother that passed, 19th of December, and I met them in Indianapolis.
Wow.
So I was, pretty close with Birdine and Philip Bailey.
Oh, excellent.
And yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about the current project. I know you're doing this. You're doing a tribute act. You've got the OJ City, the Sounds of Stylistics. So, tell me about the current projects that you're currently working on now.
Right. Well, projects I'm working on now is OJ City. My guys here, as you know, Christoph Richards, Tom Richardson. We're doing a tribute to the OJs.
Excellent.
Of which Eddie Levert, Walter Williams, and Bobby Massey,
right,
who endorsed us and wished us very well to carry on and keep holding the flag for them. And I'm doing a tribute to the Stylistics called Sounds of the Stylistics, where we do all these stylistic songs plus more, and we're having fun with it.
And the Stylistics are some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
They are wonderful, and not a lot of people know this, but the writer of the Stylistics is a guy called Tom Bell, T-H-O-M.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell,
Yes.
who is from Jamaica.
Wow, amazing. Because remember on his album, I used to see the name on the album,
That's
Tom
right.
Bell, and I used to see it all the time.
Linda Creed and Tom Bell. And Tom Bell's from Jamaica, which is why so many of the stylistic songs were turned into reggae.
Amazing.
And a lot of people know the reggae songs, sides of the songs before they know the soul versions.
Amazing.
You
Amazing.
know.
I've learned something today as well.
So.
What other projects are you working on? Come on.
Well, I'm on the cusp of writing music for a movie called 39 Weeks.
39 Weeks.
Yeah. For a writer called Julie Coley.
Julie Coley.
Yeah. Yeah. Juliet Coley.
Juliet Coley.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why it's called 39 weeks, it's the length of time students spend at school per year. So, and she used to be a head teacher.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah. Very, very old, close friend. I mean, she's almost family because she used to go and see my aunts all the time. So we're working on that and just doing a lot of writing with Alicia Warren, which is Misha Paris' sister.
Okay, brilliant.
And working towards that album, and that's going to be
Looking forward
banging.
to that.
That's going to be banging because she is an amazing talent.
Looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Name one classic song that will live with you forever.
Oh gosh. I'm
Come
sure
on,
everybody.
Carlton.
I'm sure everybody will be able to tell you. Crown Heights of Fear, Far Out.
What a tune.
That is a song that will live with me forever. Every time I hear that song, it just reminds me of happiness.
It's a classic song.
My late, dear, departed friend, Gary Cummings, and I used to go crazy over that song.
Yes.
My cousin George used to go crazy over that song. Everybody knows that was my song.
Excellent.
Fitzroy Gaines,
Fitzroy Gaines,
who was the leader for the band, well, leader for the sound system, Roxy Soul Sound.
Yes. Okay.
We'll tell you about that. That's our track.
Wow.
That's
Far
our
Out.
track. Far
And
Out.
it's interesting about Gary Cummings, who passed away. He was a real inspiration in the soul sound industry.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you the big story, but if it wasn't for Gary Cummings, I would never have become a DJ.
I hear you. I hear you. He was a proper funketeer.
If you could have one artist as a dinner guest, who would it be?
Oh man, that's a dinner guest.
One artist. Come on, Carlton. One artist as a dinner guest. Who would it be?
As a dinner guest, it would probably have to be Stevie.
Steve again?
Yeah,
we're going to Steve Wonder again. What 5 tracks have you currently playing now? What five tracks is currently in your playlist?
Right now,
I looked into your playlist. Top 5 songs. What am I going to see? As in now.
Let me look.
You got to get to the point now.
No.
Come on, give me about 5 big tunes.
Denny Morrison.
Devin
Morrison. Yeah.
Devin Morrison.
Yeah. Jeff Lorber.
Earth, Wind and Fire. 2 more.
Be Cameo. Time.
Wicked. Yeah. Final question. You like to love or be loved?
Both.
You are a legend, and your contribution to soul music globally is just huge. And we haven't got enough time to interview you. We'll have to come back.
Well, it's going to be, yeah. There's so much.
I'll have to come back next month.
There is so much. I mean,
got from Phebes, you've got your TV, you've got your musician, you're making music. Yeah, excellent. And it's great to have you, and we're going to see you again.
The most important thing in life is life. So you've got to live it.
Yourself.
Right, I'm Leslie Peverick, owner, builder of the Locomotion sound system.
What year did you sort of start Locomotion?
I think about 65, although we started before that, but the reason we got the Locomotion sound system is because when people used to come to our place we were playing, if they couldn't find it, they said, listen to that, you can hear the sound of a steam train, because it was so powerful. It sounded like a steam train coming down the road.
So, who was part of this sort of original crew of Locomotion?
Well, it was me and my adopted brother, Tony Brown, and we started off with a young kid, because we were into soul, and in the mod days we used to do a lot of ska and blue beat, and we had a young kid with us, Kenny Blake, who could toast like a Jamaican, although he was long, straight-haired white guy, but he was good. And then we had, as we went along, we picked up the boys, because the sound got bigger. There was Ernest Richards from Hornsey.
Ernest Richards?
Ernest Richards, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then we had Winston Bell. Yeah. And then we had Kenny Spider, Kenny Menzies, Everson Allen. Yeah. Who then become the Rat Pack, who's doing very well now.
Oh, right, okay.
A good DJ. It just got bigger as we went along.
So 1965, going back 1965, a little bit before my time now. So who influenced you? What made you sort of get into this sort of sound system thing?
Well, coming from a poor multicultural racial background, we used to have when I was a very young teenager, we used to have a little coffee bar in Mackenzie Road, and it was run by a Jamaican guy called Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Morgan, right.
Who then, years later, owned the 77 Club in Holloway Road, which is a very good club. But the coffee bar was us in there with a jukebox, all us, people, all young teenagers.
Yeah.
But downstairs of a weekend, he made his basement bigger. He used to run a shebeen down there. I used to help Mr. Morgan move these great big 18-inch speaker boxes about, wire them up for him, and I used to like the sound of you could feel the bass. But when as we got older, we went to these big dance halls like the Lyceum and the Royal in Tottenham and the Streatham Locarno. They had a speaker system there, but you couldn't feel it.
You couldn't feel that. Yeah, you needed that big sound.
And they never played the music we wanted to hear. I mean, who could dance to the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? I used to supply the DJs with some of my import soul records.
Okay.
And they weren't allowed to play them because they said you had to pay money for royalties.
Wow.
So they would play one or two, then I would get hushed off, and people used to come to the dance floors, and then after he started playing the pop music, everyone moved away from the dance floor. And as I got older, I got to 17, passed my test, I bought a van. Always had speakers in the van from the radio, so we started building our own speakers, little amplifiers, and we used to do little parties. Only one turntable at the time, and that's how we progressed from there.
Track back now. I'm thinking about 1965. How did you build these boxes?
Well, we used to get chipboard and plywood from the local scraps from the building sites and things like that, and then just make a big square box, put a speaker in it, wire it up, a bit of wire out the back, and that's how it started. I done it in my mum's kitchen or the backyard where we used to live. And then, as time went on, it just got bigger and bigger. Late 60s, early 70s, then we got into, then the hippie power come along. A party, we used to have them come along, and we used to have a house party. They used to put the lighting in there for us,
Wow.
Then me and my brother, we thought, let's make some money out of this, because we were playing for people in little tiny clubs.
Yeah.
And getting like 25 quid a night, which doesn't sound much then, but it's a lot of money in them days, And we decided, well, why don't we promote our own stuff? Go and hire a hall, and which is what we started to do.
So if you wanted to book Locomotion back sort of in the 1965, 1966, 1967, so how much were you sort of charging then, sort of to book Locomotion?
We used to get 25, 30, 40 quid a night.
And that's good money.
Yeah, but that's only from 7 to 11.
I started hearing about Locomotion sound when I was about 8 years old. And, I used to ask my brother a little bit more about Locomotion, but it was always limited to what he could say to me. He would say to me, well, I think they used to play in the Red Line pub,
The Red Line come along of a few years. We started off in little youth clubs. We used to have a place called the Hercules. We started off in the Hercules Youth Club. That's where they used to sound, oh, it sounds like a train coming down the road. So we used to rattle the windows and people used to banging on the doors. What's all that noise, Then we decided there was a pub in Leytonstone called the Red Line. People could hire it for different dances. So we decided to go there, and we hired it for a Friday night for a soul session, and Sunday nights for a reggae session.
Yeah.
And we got very, very popular, and it was packed. It was licensed for 150. Sometimes, if we had two sound systems there, we'd get 1,000 people in there, and because it was a big, tall ceiling, and we used to have the lighting going round the walls on the side and on the top. But at the end of the hall, we had a proper screen put up, and I used to show Tom and Jerry films, and when people were dancing to the soul music, and Tom and Jerry was getting chased. It's rather than going to a dance with just one red light with DJ with one turntable, we had the lot. We had the two turntables, the proper mixer, the proper lighting system.
Wow, excellent.
It was brilliant.
What was it like sort of being in the soul scene in the 1960s?
Oh, it's brilliant. It was brilliant because we were playing music that you couldn't hear in small clubs in the West End and big dance halls.
Yeah, I get it. But do you know of any other sort of soul sounds that were sort of around at that time as well?
We got them come up. There was Roxy Soul Sound.
Roxy Soul Sound.
There was Rap Attack.
Yeah.
And people like that.
So, Talk about these house parties now.
Oh yeah.
So what was house parties like?
Oh, wicked. A friend of ours, Barry, he lived in a street that they were demolishing.
Yeah.
They were demolishing like the whole street. And because his house was privately owned, the council couldn't knock this block of houses down.
Right.
So every Friday and Saturday night, if we ain't playing anywhere, we used to play sort of, if we were playing for somebody, we used to finish at 12 o'clock, but we used to have our boys take some speakers already to the house, and we used to go from there to there, and then used to have a house full, and it used to go until like 8, 9 o'clock the next morning. Used to get police drive past,
Yeah.
then they used to drive past again and drive past again, and thought, well, and their ideas. Well, I spoke to a policeman years later. He said, we knew who you was, we knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
He said, but we knew where all these people were.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
didn't have to worry about them. They're not out in the street committing crime or and things like that.
We could account from where they were.
Yeah. We had them all there.
Brilliant. So, give us 5 songs that you would definitely play at a locomotion party.
Well, to get people up dancing,
Yeah.
must be Sly Stone. Thank you. I want to thank you. Willie T. Walking up a one-way street.
Excellent.
Yeah. And thank you, John, and them all them type of songs.
Another one.
Robert Parker, Caught You in a Lie.
Oh, what a tune.
How about Eddie Bow, Hook and Sling?
Yeah, okay. Big tune.
Big tune, yeah.
Well, give us one more. One final one.
Reuben Wilson. Got to Get Your Own.
What was the first soul 7-inch that you ever purchased? 7-inch.
The Miracles. Shop around.
What was the first soul album you ever purchased?
Album, Otis Redding, Otis Blue.
And the final question is, do you like to love or be loved?
Oh. I like to love,
Yeah.
but I'd also think I would be loved.
So you're going to go for a bit of both?
A bit of both, yeah.
It's been excellent having you on the interview today.
Thank you very much for coming.
It's taken me like 4.5 decades to get here, but it's been well worth the trip, and we'll definitely get you back on again.
I'm Victor from Soul Incorporated, one of the members. We were Soul Sound back in the day, middle of the 70s, 78 to around about 85, 86. So the members of Soul Incorporated was myself, Lincoln Fisher, Gary Cummins, who sadly is no longer with us, Joseph Christian, Carlos Riley, Cosmos Roberts, Patrick Roberts. Some additions later on, which was my brother, Joseph Prevost, Stephen Leatham, and Harry Pitters, and also Dave Cummins.
So let's track it back a bit more. Let's go back a bit.
Okay. When I was at school, I think I was in the second year in Pound Lane. There was a school disco. It was in the playground. It was a school disco like 12 o'clock till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Because the first and second years were at Pound Lane.
Yeah.
And the third, fourth and fifth years were at Dore Gardens. It was this massive sound system, all orange speakers. I don't even know if I was really into music then, but I just remembered all these orange speakers with this music blaring out in the playground. And I later on found out it was Phil Fearon, and it was Phil Fearon and his brother Paul Fearon, 6x6. They were in the sixth form.
Okay.
When I was at school, I had a very good friend. Sadly, he's no longer with us. His name was Elroy Mills. he used to go and visit his father on a Saturday afternoon. And I used to trot along with him. We used to take the 18 bus to go down to Labrador to see his father. His father's name was Mac. He was a carpenter. His father had a sound system.
Okay.
And in his living room, he had this sound system. He had these 3 speaker boxes made out of wood, covered in 4 mica. And he had his name written on them, Mac the Knife.
Mac the Knife sound system.
So they were covered in 4 mica. They were painted. And then he had this amplifier case. In those days, it was valve amplifiers with those KT88 valves. And around the amplifier case, he had all these lights. He had an ignition key connected to it. And his father would turn this thing on. He would plug it in, and then he would turn this ignition key. And all these fancy lights would come on around this amplifier case. It was like a work of art.
Yeah.
To watch this thing. And he would go and spend a few hours with his father, and his father would play a few records and give him some pocket money, and by 4 or 5 o'clock we'd get the bus and make our way home. And I think that was the earliest influences for me.
How did Soul Link come about? Because I know Gary Cummins and Lincoln Fisher and Carlos. They're sort of more north east London, and you're sort of northwest. So how did you guys come together to kind of form Soul Incorporated?
Yeah, well, what happened, I was at Southgate Tech from 1976 to 1978. And at the end of the 2 years, they wanted to have a fashion show to model and display some of the stuff that we had created and made over the 2 years. So they arranged this fashion show, and they got some models to come and model some of the stuff. Some of the people who made stuff wanted to model it themselves. And we got a catwalk, and we were putting everything together. But we needed a DJ. We needed to get someone to do the music. Funds were tight. And I spoke to Patrick, who was at Wilsden Tech doing electronics. And I said to Patrick, we're trying to get a DJ for this fashion show. And Patrick said, let's try and do it ourselves. We weren't DJs. I'd worked through the previous summer, and I'd made a few quid, and I'd bought myself a hi-fi system from RTVC on Edgware Road. And he had a little hi-fi system, and what we done, he pulled everything together.
Bit of a mismatch.
A mixed match. I think he had 2 hi-fi speakers, I had 2. Patrick's amplifier could take had 2 phono inputs.
Right.
So he put his deck and my deck. I think we lugged it all up on the train.
We took a train up there. No van.
On the we took it on the train on the Piccadilly line. I think we boxed it all up, and we had a few records that we had purchased, and we done the music ourselves for the fashion show. But what happened? I was working part-time in McDonald's in Seven Sisters Road with Carlton White, Gary Cummins, Joseph Christian, and they all came to give us support. And the fashion show was a success. And when it finished, Carlton, who had a dance troupe with Gary Cummins and Joe Christian, they jumped on the catwalk,
right?
And we played, I think it was Things Are Gonna Get Better, Crown Heights Affair.
Big tune.
And they jumped on the stage, and they had some set dances that they had for their dance troupe that they done. And everybody sat in their chairs.
Blew everybody away.
Was flabbergasted. And when that fashion show finished, everybody said, wow, who are you guys? Well, you guys need to do something. What's the name of this? And everybody was turning 18 at that time, and birthday parties, and we had a brainstorm, and we decided, we need to keep this momentum going, and we need to try and do something. And we decided we were going to start a soul sound.
Soul.
And we were trying to figure out a name. I can't remember who came up with the name. It might have been Gary or Lincoln. who thought of the name Soul Incorporated, and that's how it
That was
kicked
it.
off.
Yeah. So what equipment did you first start off with?
Well, it was pretty basic because money was tight, and there wasn't a lot of places selling sort of disco equipment. There was a shop in Junction Road called Roger Squires,
Yeah, I remember the Roger Squires.
and their stuff was quite pricey. We ended up buying some equipment from a shop in Dalston called WA Sound Systems.
Right.
We bought a double deck. We pulled all our finances together and we bought a double deck. I think it was a very basic BSR,
Right.
ceramic. You could turn the needle 78 one way, 45 the other way,
Yeah.
all rotary.
Yeah.
It was a powered console, and we bought 2 slave amps. I think they were 100 watts a channel each, and we bought 6 speakers, 2 15 inches, I think, a pair of 18 inches, and they had tweeter boxes on top. We had a couple of these light units. It was basically a little metal unit with 3 lamp holders,
Right.
with 3 different color lights, and a little control to speed it up, slow it down.
And that was it.
And that's what we started with.
Wow, amazing.
It was very basic.
In general, how much were you charging promoters back in the day to hire Soul Inc?
Well, when we started, we were playing in youth clubs. McDonald's used to have various activities, trips around and to Seaside, etc. We used to charge sort of 30, 40 pounds.
It's good money.
And I mean, 40 pounds probably can't even buy you half a tank of gas now, put in your car. But back in the day, you know, you have to bear in mind a 12-inch would probably cost you like 99 pence.
Right. Yeah.
We used to play at Apollo
Willesden?
in Wilson High Road. That was for Bagger John.
Yeah.
On a Friday night, we used to drive all the way up there. Play at the Shampoo. Well, that was for Errol Fair Play Promotions. There was quite a few venues around that we used to play. We done some guest appearances for Trevor. TWJ used to run the podium.
One place was the Q Club, the People's Club.
Yes.
Count Suckle. So how did that come about? Because that's a real iconic club. Central London, Paddington. How did that come about with the link with Soul Inc and Suckle?
I was trying to work that one out. I think, to be honest with you, I think that was one of Mastermind's gigs that they couldn't do. I think we ended up. I think Mastermind played in there first, and then I think they wanted them to play again, and they couldn't do it for some reason. So we ended up going in there. We played about a year before the club transitioned from the Q Club to the People's Club. And it was a weekday. I think it was I can't remember if it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. But Papa Denzel was the resident DJ who played on the house system. He played the reggae, and we came in with our own system and we played the soul. We were getting paid about £150 a night to play there. And I think this was the era when a lot of these clubs and promoters wanted a change from the sort of reggae playing all night. This
A little bit of soul in there.
soul with the guys with their lights flashing and all. They sort of wanted in on that, and we came in to provide that service. After about a year, I believe Suckle lost his license, and the club changed from the Q Club to the People's Club. Different people had different nights. Chin, who owned Crystal Cars in Kensal Rise, he had the Tuesday night. We used to play it every Tuesday for him. I think Coxon used to do the Wednesday nights. Ronald from Java had the Thursday nights. I think the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday was for general hire. And yeah, we were in there 2-3 times a week.
Till what time? What time did it run? What time did it finish?
Q Club, People's Club used to finish at 6 o'clock in the morning. That used to run right through till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Midweek.
And in fact, when we used to play in there, we had a rota system. So we would all go and set up the sound 9, 10 o'clock. The Luton van. We had 2 mattresses in the van. So two people would stay and play the sound till 2, while 2 were sleeping in the van. And then we would change over. The ones that were sleeping would get up and go and play the sound till 6, while the other 2 took some rest. And 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, we all had to start work. So,
In the 1980s, teamed up with Mastermind
yes,
to create the Fusion.
yes.
What was the concept behind that?
Well, Mastermind was the bigger sound. They were the funk. They were the funk sound, and we were more mid-tempo. And we had this idea that fusing ourselves together, 2 and 2 wouldn't make 4; it would make 6.
Right.
Decided to come together to put on a few gigs, and it worked, and it was very successful. The first gig we put together was a sports and beachwear, which was in Alexandra Hotel, which was in Finsbury Park. So it was Mastermind, Soul Incorporated, The Fusion, under the banner, under the name The Fusion. And that went really well. And we had a few more gigs after that. We done one at the Ambassador Hotel. We had a Black and White at the Ambassador Hotel. That was a New Year's Eve.
Omnibus?
We had one at the Omnibus down in off Kensal Road. We had a pajama party in Shepherd's Bush in this restaurant.
In your opinion, what was unique about Soul Inc?
Well, what was unique about Soul Incorporated was like a sound system. In those days, the sound system, they had their quad boxes with their 1 turntable. We had a double deck. We tried to keep it as professional as possible. We had a lighting system. We had 2 big light boxes, strobe lights. And we had a crew of some fellas that would dance. People didn't want to be in that sort of darkness. They wanted to hear soul. And unfortunately, some of the venues in the West End and outside the West End that were catering for that sort of music, they weren't catering for us.
Right, okay.
So
after Soul Inc not as finished, you decided to take Soul Inc on a different direction.
Yeah.
A change in direction.
Yeah.
And take it onto the high street. So give us a bit of an insight into that change of direction.
Well, sound had come to an end, but we had all the equipment. And what happened was people would get people coming around on a Saturday. Oh, Vic, have you got a mic? You could. Or Vic, have you got a light controller? So we used to hire it to them. So we'd hire a mic out here. We'd hire out a mid-range here. These people kept coming back. So we decided, you know what? I think we could start something. We could start a business hiring equipment.
Yeah.
This was going from home, having all these people come to the home, a house, to hire this, to get this stuff. And we thought, let's try and find a premises to do that. And there was a property on the high street, which was up for lease. And we ended up getting that property. It was a shop. And we moved the business into there. 'Cause we were selling, we were renting equipment, and we were repairing equipment. We weren't doing the repairs ourselves. We had someone off site that we would carry the repairs to. And that business, it was 775 Harrow Road, discotheque, and it was there from 1987. And it was there till about 2000.
As well as that, you're also a very good DJ as well.
Yeah.
So, and you went on radio under the name of George Parker.
Yeah.
So tell us about the George Parker show.
Well, I ended up doing quite a long stint on a pirate station, Roots FM, and jazz. I love all music, but I've got a big love for jazz music,
Yeah.
jazz and blues, and there was very little jazz and blues being played. All soul reggae music stems from jazz music. And so I started doing a 2-hour show. It was in the evening initially, and then it moved to an afternoon show. Didn't want to, I was kind of well known in the Northwest 10 area, and for some reason, I don't know, I didn't want to use my name. So I came up with this name, George Parker, and that's the name that I was using for my radio program. And it was soul, but it was half and half. It was jazz and soul, but I used to play a lot of jazz.
Iconic show.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a story about George Parker show. Because I met my wife on the George Parker show, but that's for another interview altogether. So you've actually taken the equipment, or you sort of across the pond, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, what happened in the 80s? Middle of 80s, I went to St. Croix, which is a US Virgin Island. I went to see my uncle. And whilst over there, I went to a gig. There was a band from Antigua. The band was named Burning Flames.
Burning Flames.
So they were playing in Antigua, and I went with my cousin. And we had to park about a mile away from the venue.
Wow.
There were so many cars.
Roadblock session, they call that.
It was $10 US to get in. And when we got in there, the place was absolutely packed to the rafters. The PA sounded crap.
Right.
There was no lighting. I think they had one big 5 kilowatt lamp shining on the stage.
Yeah.
But everybody was enjoying themselves. The bar sold out. And I thought to myself, if I came here with this little PA system that we had and half a dozen par cans and a smoke machine, I'd make a packet.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to put that into action. And it was quite a few years after that, maybe 10 years after that, that I met someone in Dominica who was in the government. We ended up setting up a lighting company, long and short of it, in Dominica and in Grenada. And we ran that for about 10 years. We're not actually doing it now, but the last thing that we done was we done the stage and the lights for the last St. Lucia Jazz Festival, which was in 2016.
There's so many tunes to go through.
Yeah.
So many tunes. There's so many tunes. But I'm going to pin you down now and say to me, give me 5 tunes you will definitely be playing at any Soul Link rave. Come on, 5 tunes.
Brass Construction, Tomorrow's Now.
Yep.
Mandrill, Stay Tonight.
Okay.
Archie Bell and the Drills, Don't Let Love Get You Down.
Classic.
Magic Lady, Give It Up. Loose Change, I Want to Hold On to You.
What was the first 7-inch you ever purchased?
The first 7-inch I ever purchased was BT Express. Do It Till You're Satisfied.
First soul album you purchased?
The first soul album I purchased, well, it was a jazz album actually. It was Donald Byrd, Blackbird. And I ended up buying that album because when I was at school in the 3rd year, I had a good friend. His name was William Gilbert. He lived on Ruckledge Avenue. He was learning to play the trumpet. And I went round his house and he was playing that album and he was trying to follow it on his trumpet. And it was about 2-3 years after I ended up buying that album. I think I was in the 3rd year at school, but he was 2 years above me. Sadly, he passed away, and I ended up buying that album.
Right, last question. Do you like to love or be loved?
Wow, that's a difficult one. Do I like to love or be loved? I like to love.
Right, classic. So, Mac the Knife, Soul Inc., Discotheque, George Parker, Millennium Lighting. Bang, there you go. Legend. That's it. End of interview. Nice one.